I remember my first year teaching. Skip and I's classrooms were right next to each other. And Skip had like AP history. He had like 6 kids in there. I had accounting. I had 30 students in there. And they were ready to break down the walls. Now, I'm a first year teacher. I'm, almost 23 years old. The seniors are 18. And I'll never forget, Sister Ethel Rita. Whenever she didn't want kids in her class, she'd throw them out of their class, and Dr. Gaudio, the principal, would say, "Dino, take these 2 kids." So we started with 20. Halfway through the year, we had 30. And accounting is a building block course. You got to your debits and credits, and then your income statements and your balance sheet. Well, you bring kids in there halfway through the year. He was just like, do your best to keep them quiet. Well, one day, kids were loud. Skip's room was right next to mine. And after class, we would always walk out of our classrooms and just sort of lean up to the wall as the kids were exchanging classes. And Skip looked at me and goes, "Would you have a pep rally in there?" I go, "You know what, Skip? I got a couple kids in there. They're bad, dealing with them kids." And only in his little way, like he looked at me and goes, "Kids are as bad as you let them be." And he just walked down the hall. And that was sort of his way of saying, that's your job, to make sure those kids are under control. And that's just the way subtly, he would tell you things. Skip and I would have some hellacious arguments. I mean, we were really different in ways. We were tremendously different in ways. And whenever he'd had enough, he was too respectful for everybody to say shut up. But whenever he wanted to tell me shut up, he would say, "Dino, I got it." And then every once in a while, I'd be so adamant that we needed to do this on defense or this on offense, and I'd be in him and we'd be arguing, and then he would just stop and he'd say, "Well, this is what we're going to do, and when you get your team, you do it that way." That was it. He wouldn't yell back at you, and we could have just tremendous, I don't know if they're arguments or discussions, and 5 minutes later, he'd walk in my office or I'd walk in his office and go, "Well, where do you want to go for lunch?" I mean, it was over, and we carried on. It was almost like a older brother and a younger brother. That's what it was like. July 26th. I was in Orlando. We were at the together. Skip and I were actually at the national. It was the 17 and under AAU tournament at the Disney complex in Orlando. Just throughout that whole day, I was getting phone calls. Mark and I were in this private terminal in Orlando waiting for the plane. And then, when it showed up on ESPN, that was pretty traumatic. When they showed his picture and the dates, you know what I mean? That was pretty traumatic. I think if someone went through, I don't think this has ever happened in college basketball before, where a sitting coach has passed so suddenly. And I think, God forbid, it would ever happen again, or in any sport. I think what you have to do is, I really think you have to try to embrace the situation. I think you have to make it a celebration of that person's life. And that's what we try to do, good, bad, or indifferent, with Skip. I think if someone else was sitting in this position, hearing so much praise about Skip and what a good person he was and what a great coach he was, they might feel threatened by that. I don't feel threatened by that at all. All those things are true. He was the best person I ever knew. He was a great coach, but I think you got to embrace that. I think you have to celebrate that. That's so important, or else going through the difficulties and dealing with all the other stuff would be too difficult to handle.